Welcome to Theologizing Life with Anthony Cottrell and the one and only
Alesa Tracy
Alisa. What? Where'd Matt
and her,
Tracy go?
and her husband.
What? You
So
took
we kicked
Oh,
control.
I'm sorry.
Matt out, and Elisa's the new co-host, but
Yeah.
her husband's joining us. So Matt is here again. Hi, Matt.
Hi.
All I have to say is it's about time.
Yep.
No, we're just kidding. Matt Tracy is still the co-host, and
I
here's
listen
the
to
fun
her all
thing.
the time, and she just like gives me notes, like,
No.
feedback. And now she's just staged a mutiny.
Your wife listens to our podcast.
No, absolutely.
Emily, do you listen to our podcast?
Sometimes.
Oh yeah, Emily's here. So here's the fun thing.
Hi.
So we told our wives we were going to do a marriage episode. What they didn't know is Matt and I are actually just going to interview them.
No.
No,
First question, why don't we listen to your podcast?
First question. How dare you?
no, we're just kidding. I thought that would be a fun joke.
Mm.
We are going to do a marriage podcast. We're going to talk about our marriages. And perhaps, maybe, something meaningful will come of this.
Hopefully.
Yeah, we're not taking the position of experts here, so
No.
Not at all.
It's more of sharing experience and perhaps normalizing some things for other couples, especially within, I don't know about you guys, but I had early on some high expectations for what a Christian marriage and especially a spiritual Christian marriage should look like. And we don't meet those expectations typically. And it's actually sometimes freeing for me to find out, like, oh, okay, like that's not the only way a Christian marriage needs to look, you know? So
Yeah.
Yes.
There are some Christian marriages I knew of. It's like if that's what it means for me, then like I don't know if I want to do that. Like, because it's just different for everybody, you know?
Yeah.
so hopefully, maybe if nothing else, we'll normalize or make it relatable, I hope,
Relatable. Yeah.
some things. So yeah. But to start out, I'm gonna ask
Or
you,
maybe we'll be, you're gonna listen to this and be like, I don't want to be anything like them in my marriage, and that'll be helpful too, you know?
yeah,
You know,
you can
it'll
learn what not
narrow
to.
the playing field for you.
Just kidding. I think we're pretty good at being
We'll see.
All right, so I'm going to start out
feisty.
asking Tracy's a question. So first thing, just to familiarize our listeners, tell us a little bit about your story. Like, how did you guys meet? How does your engagement story go? And then if you have this, like, is there anything funny that happened at your wedding? So yeah, tell us a little bit of your story.
Is there any stories we could tell from our wedding?
There
On the
are.
Just kidding.
One of them does include a bartender, so I'm just trying to see which story do I want to share.
So we met in youth group actually. Alesa was my sister Nicole's best friend. And we've known each other for what?
Since
Like-
since we were in seventh grade,
Seventh
eighth
grade?
grade, eighth grade.
So probably what? 10 years?
I don't know how long.
No, 15 years. Shoot,
Way longer than that.
for some reason I just went back to like I was 23 in my mind.
2008.
I'm 29.
2008 is when we
Yeah,
met.
so 15 years.
Mhm.
And so we didn't actually start like becoming friends or like
It was so Matt was always Nicole's little
I was like
brother.
the stinky little brother.
And like we ran in the same social circles, but we never talked to each other. It was very weird. Like I think the first conversation that me and Matt had with each other was probably when we were like juniors in high school.
You know.
Oh wow.
It
So
was
that
very
was a lot.
Well, there was one time that Nicole, my sister, had friends over and we were all watching a movie. And then
Oh my gosh, yes.
this was the days where you had to go to Family Video to rent a movie. So my sister and my sister had her friends over, including Alesa, and I was just there tagging along like I always did. and my sister and her other friends went to go rent another movie, leaving Alisa and I just sitting in, the basement together, just like
What do we do? What do we talk about? I've never talked to you before.
Yeah. It was a funny, and then we ended up getting married. So
Wild.
That's
yeah.
horrible.
Yes, so we like knew each other. We're acquaintances, but then when we both went away to college, I think that as we got older, like our friends who valued the same things as we did kind of like narrowed out, because it's like you have this big pool of like we're all in this together, and then everybody kind of decides to go their separate ways. So I think that me and Matt were like two of the people from our youth group that like held the same values. So that kind of brought us together. And then I went to Grace College, and then he ended up going to a school in Illinois. But when
North Central College
North Central College, yep.
in Naperville.
But then when he decided that he wanted to go into ministry, and I was already studying ministry, that kind of brought us closer together. Then we went on a mission trip, and we all know that the
Oh my God.
best relationships start on mission trips.
Yeah. I always, like, when I was a youth pastor, I could not bring myself to say don't fall in love in youth group, because like that I would not be living up to my own advice. So yeah, you fall in love on a mission trip. Sometimes it just happens. There's a lot of emotions there.
Yeah.
But
It's so sweet.
yeah. So so our engagement story, I always come out of the story when Lisa tells it looking like a total dweeb. And I want you to know that I had plans that did not go well.
No,
So
they went great. Sorry, we're taking way too long on this first question. We'll tell this engagement story. So Matt texts me on a Wednesday, and he's like, let's go for a walk down by Window. No, let's go out to dinner, and then let's go for a walk afterward. And I was like, he's proposing. Who says let's go for a walk?
I don't like going for walks.
So, but then I texted all of my friends, and I was like, guys, I'm really worried. I've been waiting for this for a long time. I think Matt's gonna propose, but I don't want to be disappointed. So all of my friends who already knew I was getting engaged that weekend were like, Alisa, I really think you need to don't get your hopes up, because I don't think this is gonna happen. And then he took me out to dinner. We walked around the lake, and
I had a spot, and it was supposed to be by the water, by Winona Lake. But there were so many people there, and I'm like, this is not going to work. So I had to call an audible midway through, and it still ended up working out.
So in his head, Matt was like, I need to find a new spot because this is not what I planned. And in my head, I'm like, he's proposing to me. So we're both walking around in silence, just holding each other's hands, just I looked at him, I'm like, are you all right? He's like, yeah, you all right? I'm like, yep. And then we just didn't say anything. But then he proposed, and he goes, Alisa, will you marry me? Wait, do I need to get down on one knee?
Yeah. Neil. It was just, I was all
pressure. Come on.
it was fine.
Pressure. So yes.
So why don't you guys tell us about we'll talk about our wedding stories after you guys share your story.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we met at Indiana Wesleyan. We had some mutual friends, and one of my roommates worked with Anthony in the admissions office. And so I had known of Anthony for a little while, but we hadn't quite ran in the same circle socially. So I knew he was a really great guy, but didn't really know that our paths would meet, or if, he was just a really cool guy. But then we ended up having a couple semesters back to back of classes together. And so I just kind of kept seeing him over and over again. Didn't really think anything more to it until our junior year. And we were in adolescent growth and development. I was in it for psychology for an elective, and Anthony was taking it for youthman. And I borrowed the book from my roommate, who was our mutual friend, and Anthony also wanted to borrow the book. And then it kind of became this, hey, I lent it to my roommate, Emily, and you should, share the book. And so then it started as,
Friends set up.
Oh,
book
that's
sharing, and then it
Can
was
I
like,
ask, did Anthony have a beard at this point?
oh no.
Was the
He
hair
actually had some hair though. Little swooshy hair.
That was like before
That's
Bieber was
weird.
Bieber.
Yeah.
I had longer hair,
What?
Yes.
Bieber was Bieber?
Before
Yeah,
Bieber.
before the Bieber swoosh was a thing.
Yeah.
I remember you before you totally went bald, but like I don't remember you ever having like long hair.
So
It
what
wasn't
were
long.
you?
It was just
It
like
was
a little
super long.
shag,
It was like the beach bum shag.
And I think sometimes you had the little soul patch
I had a soul
situation going
patch,
on.
or a couple times a day. I don't know if by then I did.
You were
but-
doing the youth pastor.
Right, anyway.
So what we're gonna do for this podcast is the title picture is gonna be all of us when
Baby pictures.
Yeah. Me and second.
So it was interesting. We had 3 semesters like back to back where we're in the same class, but we still didn't socially interact. And part of it was I had a group of friends, and half of them were like in long-term relationships where they were going to get married. So they weren't interested in like meeting other girls at school. And then the other half were scared of girls, I guess. I don't know. And I sort of adapted to my environment and was like, well, I don't have any wingmen, so I'm never going to meet anyone. so, so we didn't really talk, but yeah, we started sharing that book. I worked with her friend in the admissions office and was actually pretty good friends with Rachel since freshman
Shout
year.
out to Rachel.
Yeah, she's been on the podcast before, actually.
Yeah.
Before Matt was a co-host, one of my first episodes was with Rachel. So throwback to listeners if anyone wants to go check that one out. She's a psychologist. But anyways, so we were sharing the book.
And it started out, trading the book back and forth. And then I did the hey, if you need anything, there's my number. I gave him my number in case he needed me. Which was pretty bold for me. I don't I had always been really shy and awkward around boys.
She
in
was
general.
actually, there's a couple, I don't know how long we had to get, but there are a couple of different points where Emily was very forward.
I just started getting forward. I apparently was like,
which one?
I like this guy. He's
fine.
Great. So anyway, but we started sharing the book and then we started studying together, which just turned into me like laughing all night and getting nothing done and going for walks and
yeah, so there's a little bit of a funny story. So I'm sitting in this big open commons area, and then there's this like student walkway, and I was in there talking to a friend, and this is the irony about it. Me and this friend we're both single, we're both ministry majors. We both had a class we had to stay up late to study for. We were going to go to this 24-hour study lounge, but we were talking about singleness and just girls and all this stuff. And I look out into like the walkway, which was a ways away, and I saw Emily come out of one of the like dining options on campus, and she was walking towards the exit, but I saw her
about face.
I saw her turn around, and she came in and said hi to me and the friend I was talking to, and talked, and we're like, yeah, we're gonna go to 24-hour study lounge, and you can join us if you want. And she walked away, and that friend literally was like, what about her? And I'm like, yeah, I just like, I don't really like, we're not really friends. We don't really hang out. I don't know. So then we started hanging out, and this is the end of our junior year. We started hanging out, studying at the 24-hour study lounge for like the last couple of weeks of the semester, because it was a brutal semester actually. But there's this gas station near campus that had like the giant Polar Pops. Like we walked there once. So anyways, I'm thinking
finding all the excuses to, hang out together.
We're making the story
Sorry.
long too. So I
got 6 so far at least.
I thought by senior year we will be hanging out, and so our friend groups will interact, and maybe I could ask her on a date like senior year, or something. We ended up
fast tracking things,
and started dating that summer. And then I went on this bike trip with her, which that's a story, which we don't have time.
That's a
long story, but
track.
I rode on a bicycle 380 some miles in the course of 4 days, and almost died.
And
but
I figured
survived.
if he could see me look as disgusting as I did and smell and feel, exhausted and tired and not very lovely, then, if he could handle that, he could stick around.
So we go into a senior year and we're dating, and then by Christmas break we were engaged, and then the next summer, so after graduation, we got married, moved to Warsaw, Indiana, and I became a youth pastor, and so it was a year.
And the rest was history. And then the next day, you met Matt and Alesa Tracy.
Yes,
Just kidding.
it was actually
Fast forward
a few years later, actually,
Yeah.
but only like 3 or 4.
Yeah,
Engagement story.
I first met you guys when Emily was still pregnant with Titus. That was the
Okay.
first time I met you
Yeah.
guys.
So it was like
5 years
5
in for us. Yeah.
well, maybe 4.5,
Yeah.
but yeah, four, something like that. But I think we met you, Alesa,
We met you, Alesa,
before.
before we met Matt, and we're
Yeah.
like, who is this guy?
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, funny thing, we remember hearing about you as like Elisa's boyfriend, and this like, wonder what he's like, and like, oh. But anyway,
Fast forward, we're all friends. So
engagement story, I sound pretty awesome in this story, I feel like, but it's because I had help from her sister.
yes,
like
Kristen
a lot of
paid
help.
attention to some details, and you asked for help, which I think was very sweet.
Yeah, I asked for help, and she had these like, oh my goodness, actually, I think about it, some like almost Hallmarky like ideas. Which that
Called
actually made
romantic,
romantic
actually.
ideas.
Yes.
So it was Christmas break, and the plan was we were going to go to our homes, which Emily's from Toledo, I'm from Martinsville, Indiana, and then we were going to meet up later on Christmas break and celebrate Christmas together. But instead of going home, I left before her. It's like, all right, I'm done with my finals. I'm going to go home. I'll see you later.
Which, side note, he was not nearly as sad as I thought he should be, saying goodbye to me for like, at least, what was it, 2 or 3 weeks? I don't know. It's probably like the longest we've been apart, like since the summer. Is that timeline right? I don't know. Anyways,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, he's not gonna miss me. Why isn't he sadder?
And I'm like, I'm
He
gotta
had plans.
book it to Toledo before she gets there. And her grandpa lives near them. And so I went to his house and I got changed, all dressed up. And her parents had this like park bench that they were going to set out in their back porch. And so Emily got home and her parents were like, okay, grandpa wants to take you out to dinner. You need to get dressed up to celebrate the end of a long, hard semester.
Which I was like, I don't need to dress up for grandpa. Our sweatpants, okay? And they're like, no, go shower and get dressed. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, grandpa loves me for who I am. I don't care. Anyway, so, reluctantly, I got dressed up.
The classic stubborn. And because Kristen's like, when she gets proposed to, she probably doesn't want to look like, she's just in her sweatpants and pajamas or something. So I was like, okay, good idea. So she gets dressed up. They had a dog at the time. Her mom tells her to go let the dog out back or let him in or something.
Yeah.
And by that point, I had driven over to their house, walked to the backyard, and I was sitting on the park bench. So
and you had a single red rose. Very sweet.
So when she opened the door, I was there on the
Which
porch.
Obviously, I knew, and I just kind of stood there like, oh my gosh.
And then I gave her the rose, got down on the knee, asked her to marry me, and she said yes.
And here we are.
Oh, that's so fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
What a good one.
And then we went to Olive Garden for dinner, and we came home, and it's like,
Oh, and you didn't go with the ring on the Olive Garden breadstick?
no.
That would have been special.
No. But like, I don't know about you guys, but we were so
just so exhausted.
We were so
from
emotionally tired. It was
excitement.
It's like, okay, I'm gonna go to bed now.
I love you. I'm looking forward to our life together.
Good
I'm
night.
going to go to bed.
We have a lot of years together, but right now I'm gonna sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our wedding story that I can think of.
Oh, what were you gonna say?
Really quick, other than it was as hot as
really
the
hot.
bad place on that July day.
And we decided to go with like full suits for the
I
guys.
like suit, vest, all that stuff. And the reception didn't have air conditioning working very well at her church. And so Like people, my
Dripping.
dad was like soaked. That was kind of funny, but the pastor had in his notes, and he had like it was like a template. And what did he call
He
me?
called you Aaron
He called me Aaron or
instead
something
of
a couple
Anthony. I was
different
like,
times.
is this
Like,
legal?
like no, but we just like rolled with it, didn't correct him or anything.
I
But
think he got it right for the vows, so it was
I think
okay,
so,
but we
yeah.
laughed about it later.
Yeah.
Did
So
he realize it, or was he just like going through calling you
We
Aaron?
looked at
No.
each other and locked eyes and were like, huh,
man, just
okay,
roll with it.
just
I'm
keep
Aaron
going.
now.
Oh, I love that.
But so
Anyways,
that was
what
just
was
funny.
yours?
That was it. Actually,
Oh.
I was when he called you the wrong name.
Yeah.
That's
So,
amazing.
anyways, what about you guys and your wedding? Was there anything funny that happened or
These
memorable?
bouquets made. They were really beautiful bouquets
Oh my god.
and very expensive bouquets too. So like that kind of adds to the story. So after the wedding, like we're gone at this point. My family is cleaning up the reception hall and everything like that. And our friend Dylan stuck around to help clean up. And
No, we weren't gone because I was there when my mom asked. I'll let Matt
Anyway.
keep going, but we were still there. We were cleaning out the reception.
Dylan found the bouquet. One of the bouquets was your bouquet, wasn't it?
No, it was my mom.
Oh, yeah, that's even worse. So Lisa's mom's
Mother
bouquet,
of the bride, her
and
bouquet.
he just took it home
Oh,
because he
dear.
didn't think that we wanted it.
He apparently said, like, I was walking around asking people if it was theirs, and I asked like the wait staff if it was theirs. So like no one said they wanted it, so I just took it.
home.
So then my mom later on was like, "Where's my bouquet? Like it's not on the
Because
table."
we were gonna get them dried and pressed and like framed,
Yeah.
like preserve it because it's like a
Yeah,
special book.
beautiful. Yeah, sure.
But we didn't know where it was. So we get back from our we go on our honeymoon, like it's like weeks after the wedding. We go over to Dylan's house and the bouquet is just sitting there in a vase on his kitchen table.
Oh my word.
I was like, "Where'd you get that, man?" He's like, "It was just hanging out on one of the tables," and I was like, "That is my mom's bouquet, you jerk!" Like,
Oh, Dylan.
Which
yeah, everybody needed
I
it.
love Dylan.
So the special thing was that I got to get the bouquet and preserve it because I found it at Dylan's house.
Hey, that's funny.
But again, the wait staff was gonna throw it away, so Dylan might have saved it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think he did. There you go.
You know, providential. Who knows?
But yes, my mom was very upset, to say the least.
Yeah.
for the record, for our listeners, Dylan is the furthest thing from a jerk in his
Yes.
disposition.
Yes.
No, he was in my wedding. He stood up in my wedding. Like he's
We're all still friends, so yeah.
Oh,
one of our best
yes.
friends in the entire world.
The furthest thing. Yeah, it was so innocent. It's just a funny.
Hilarious.
I want to get him on a podcast one of these days.
Yeah.
Really?
So yeah. Well, question for you guys. We should get serious here because we spent a lot of time talking about our funny stories. But how does your shared faith in Jesus shape your marriage?
You want to go first?
Go ahead.
Okay. I would say I think it just gives us a different kind of ethic to follow when we talk about relationships and our commitment to one another, trying to model which we're not awesome at it. I'll be the first to say that, but just having the covenant relationship instead of just kind of cultural, I guess you could say, level of commitment, but having that covenant relationship that's modeled like Jesus and having grace and forgiveness for one another. Ultimately the goal is for us to look more and more like Christ in our relationship, which is a refining experience, I could say. But just being united to love one another more and more like Jesus in selfless, self-giving ways. But
Yeah,
that's the ideal. Doesn't always live out practically the way that
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I
What would
think
you say?
I think I would agree. So our shared, some of our shared, well, okay, our shared commitment to this idea of grace and forgiveness and self-giving love and so on your, the fruit of the spirit is one of the things. Like, now we don't work that out or walk that out perfectly all the time, but it's sort of like the anchor that helps, or like such a cheesy thing to say, but it's like true north that helps
Right.
us uh, align our marriage back to where it needs to be. But then I think too, it shapes our values and how we um and not like just moral values and things like that, like compared to like it actually like one of the things we value, I think, is hospitality. And so our shared faith in Jesus shapes how we engage like our friends and our neighbors and ministry and um people around us in our community. And I feel like we I feel like we're fairly together on some of that stuff. So
Yeah.
and but it's because of Jesus. It's because of Jesus that we care about interacting with our neighbors and not just like um isolating. And I don't know. Our shared faith in Jesus shapes our view on generosity and things like that. So
Yeah.
some of those shared values and I like the word used, ethics and stuff.
Yeah.
How about you guys? How would you answer the question of how Jesus has shaped how your shared faith in Jesus has shaped your marriage or made a difference?
Well, first of all, we have certainly been on the other end of your hospitality and your generosity and your care for people. So we've seen that, and we can certainly attest to the fact that it's from the Holy Spirit and from Jesus and not just of your own efforts. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you for
How does it? I act like I don't know, but I know. There's so many ways that it does. Like, I can't imagine our relationship without Jesus. It just like it was the thing that brought us together. Like I said during our story, as we started to get to know each other, it was like that's what brought us close, is when all the rest of our friends started to fall away from their faith. We were deciding to follow Jesus with our lives, and that brought us closer. So, I mean, for me, I think the thing that matters and makes a difference every single day consistently is that, like, I know that Matt loves me with unconditional love, because I think that that is one of the differences between love from Jesus and then just like human love, is that human love is conditional, but love from Christ and love from God is unconditional. And when you bring that kind of love into a marriage, there's so much safety in there, and so much just like foundation to be yourself, foundation to mess up, foundation to be wrong, be a jerk sometimes, because that happens when you're married.
You're never a jerk.
I'm never ever.
It's always me, just a jerk.
I guess that's my favorite word tonight.
Yeah.
But yeah, it gives you so much safety to mess up and know that your partner will love you no matter what, because they have the forgiveness and the love of Jesus, and they're in it for the long haul and not just for what you do for them.
Yeah.
I guess in a just like an everyday life sense too, like it just kind of gives you a baseline goal in your life. How do we want our parent? How do we want to parent? How do we want to use our finances? How do we want to interact with the people around us? Like, what do we want our friendships to look like? It's all based on like what is kingdom minded, and having that kind of cooperation and not being, butting heads, different values. That's I can't imagine not having that.
I was just gonna say, like, I can't imagine trying to make choices together for our family if we did not value the same thing and if we didn't follow Jesus together. It would be extremely difficult. And I'm glad that we're always to some extent on the same page when we enter into decisions together, because we know who we're trying to be more like, and that informs our decisions for all of life.
Yeah.
Ideally.
Ideally.
Sometimes we're not great at that, but in an ideal world, we would be better at that every day.
Yeah.
Emily, you want to ask this one?
Sure. So how do you encourage one another in your faith journeys and relationship with Jesus?
I think Elisa's good at just telling me the truth sometimes when I need to hear it. And it's not hardly ever fun to have those conversations, but it's always formative. I feel like we've had a lot of hard conversations where I've just been able to like snap out of it. And I don't know if I can give a specific example, but like you're not, holding up your end of the deal in X, Y, and Z way. And I can see like, okay, this sucks to hear. I'm not going to handle the situation well in the moment, probably because I'm defensive, but I think like I need to be different somehow. I need to change and grow in a certain area. So I don't know, that's one of the ways that I can see that in our marriage.
Yeah. I'm actually really grateful. I've thought that about you many times. Like, I don't have to fear bringing things to you that are bothering me because you are very quick to be like, not that you just do it for me, but you're very quick to take it seriously and be like, okay. And then you change. And it's like, I don't have to worry that I have to like keep stuff from you or that it's not worth talking to you or that you're never going to grow, you're never going to change. Like, and it goes both ways. Like, I hope that I change for you as well, but I'm really grateful for the effort that you put into like listening to that and changing. So Matt, for me, I love his knowledge of the Bible and how the whole story connects together and points to Jesus. Like, I just think he is so good at interpreting that thread. So like his approach to scripture and his kingdom mindset is just so like integrative, and he really helps me apply biblical truth to my life in a way that's not like trying to shove a square peg into a round hole. Like, I know this doesn't make sense experientially, but this is what God says, so just try to make it work or just try to understand it. I feel like Matt is just really good at helping me holistically understand God's character and helping me interpret the things that I experience, because I'm very like emotionally driven and experience driven. So he brings a lot of biblical truth to what I am facing in my life and allows me to see things holistically. And I've grown a ton in my relationship with God and just my knowledge of scripture since like dating and marrying him. So I'm really grateful for that. How about you guys? Same question.
What would you say?
Um,
Well, we pray together every morning and every
Stop.
night.
Okay.
We
stop.
read scripture
Don't
and a
be-
devotional together
You know what?
to each other.
People might not know you. Sorry.
To each other.
In the original Greek.
So
No.
some people might thrive off of doing like devotionals and Bible reading together. We just haven't jived in that way.
So we
and
did try.
We've tried, but I always fell asleep.
Like whoever was not reading, it was really hard. Like, so if I was reading, she would kind of nod off or like struggle. If she was reading, my brain would wander, and I'm like, this, like, we're just doing this for yeah, that's fair. There are some
I
couples
mean-
who do that. For us, it was like, this isn't life-giving.
No. So, I mean, more power to you if you can do that together and enjoy it and stay awake.
And then we both also have, like, there's a book, Sacred Pathways, that talks about like ways people connect with God. Like, we also learned early on, like, we connect with God differently in terms of like our individual relationship.
Yeah.
And like, that's okay.
And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just different. And so kind of being respectful of different ways of connecting with God and are relating to God and things. So, but what we can say, like,
So,
that
yeah,
we do
that we do. Yeah.
can do together and whatnot is, I mean, just simple like, speaking the truth and encouragement. It's funny how it seems that when one of us is down, the other one is, feeling confident in Jesus that day. And we take turns, pulling each other out of the pit at times, I guess you could say. Just the truth and speaking the truth to one another and receiving it, and finding encouragement in that. And also just kind of the encouragement to like keep persevering and, you know, spurring each other on. Just like, yeah, it is hard at times and it does suck and it's not easy, but just speaking the truths that God has given us and that God's faithful and all these truths that we need reminded of, just like you were saying, Alesa, just speaking those truths and hearing them for each other and just speaking into each other when we need it the most. But what would you say?
I think together we share and listen to one another. And then I think we both offer that perspective and truth, like you're saying, when the other needs it in a way that's not like, remember in youth group, Matt, or maybe you weren't in there, a small group, some middle school guys, instead of Bible thump, we coined the term scripture slap.
Well, I in that.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
It's like, remember it? That was
Scripture
me.
slap. That's yeah.
That's classic right there. So like we don't scripture slap one another. We genuinely listen and empathize, and then but then do sometimes like try to gently speak the truth that helps like reframe. And I think that's helpful. Another thing though, a little bit more specific to me, in terms of how Emily encourages, she um she well, it's very similar, I guess, that she helps me see a different perspective sometimes. In I get really I get analysis paralysis sometimes. um I spiral sometimes down these existential theological rabbit holes, and sometimes she'll just say something that's like very simple, and I just every now and then have this like, oh yeah, that's a good point. And
I'm not trying to say it in a
no, it's not at all
like a simple, easy
Emily,
way.
where were you on a 17-hour car ride to Florida then? Like,
Oh,
I
man.
could've used-
How
I
many
could've-
rabbit holes did you go down?
17 hours is a long time to explore the rabbit holes of Anthony's mind.
Intervention is needed.
Matt needed rescued. Now it doesn't always work. Like sometimes I'm on a spiral, but every now and then she'll say something that's true, and it's like, yeah, okay. And then I think she encourages me to do things that are healthy for me. So like there's space to do those ways that we do connect with God. There's ways that we let each other do that. And
Yeah,
so,
sometimes that's stepping away from
yeah.
the house, the family, the kids, the things, and going to be alone or
Like I've done some
whatever.
24-hour retreats, for example, like where I went away to this like retreat center by myself, you know, and there was freedom and encouragement to do that. So those are just little ways. Yeah.
Yeah, Matt would tell me about the times when Matt and Anthony worked together, that Anthony would just come in and close the door and sit on his couch.
The blue couch.
Would you lay down like
He would just like take a deep breath, and he's like, "That's when I know Anthony's about to spiral."
here we go.
If we
Buckle
ever
up.
try to book Anthony, it's going to be titled The Blue Couch. Just and it's just going to be us like word vomiting. Yeah. There's no point to this book. There are no answers in this book.
You end where you begin and you begin where you end, sort of thing.
Theologizing on the blue couch.
Yep. So, what are some of the things that you intentionally do to monitor and cultivate the health of your marriage? Having kids throws a wrench into the situation.
Okay. Actually, I'm curious. I know things I'll say. I'm curious what you'll say.
I took little notes so that I can stay on
Yeah.
track. But I would say we try to have open communication in general. I mean, Anthony's a little better about the open part of communication and transparent communication. I'm a little hit or miss, but I'm growing in that thanks to 10 years or whatever we're at. But yeah, just having open communication and checking in regularly, like how are you doing, and you know, are there things that I could be doing better, differently, or whatever, and how are we meeting each other's needs or failing to meet one another's needs. We really value having, since we have kids, we really value having family nights and things like that, but we also try to have pretty regular, as much as we can manage, date nights, which include time away from the children, and whether that's dinner or just going, we like to go to live music or a movie, or I know a movie's not really like, you're not connecting, but you are having fun together, laughing together, and that's valuable to me. But and then, I mean, we also really love to have like getaways, which that's not always very feasible in like the regular pace of life, but we do try to prioritize like making like a Valentine's getaway. Maybe it's not like at Valentine's Day, but it's in the a couple months around there, just to prioritize, we're gonna treat ourselves in this way, get away, spend time together, be away from the everyday nagging things that have to get done, like the to-dos, and just prioritizing having time together, having fun time together. I really value having fun, probably more than I should. So I think it's been important for me and us to find things that we enjoy doing together. So whether that's coffee, movies, puzzles. I've gotten on a puzzle kick lately. I don't know. Just, do life and have fun together.
Yeah. So I guess,
Yeah, summarize for me.
quality time is something we prioritize. A real practical way I would say is like some rhythm of a regular date night. I have a friend who does it weekly. That's not feasible for us, like, or affordable with a babysitter. So our goal is um, monthly date night. Um, and then we've done the getaways, and like without our children, and that's important. And so quality time, and then sometimes for those date nights and that quality time, I have a couple like resources that have like communication or conversation prompts, that sometimes I will pull up and we'll talk about them at dinner, uh, for fun. Like sometimes they're fun conversation starters. Every now and then we'll have like some check-ins on the date night when we're not heated or upset about something, but we'll have these
We'll
like
kind of refer back to some situations, or yeah.
Just like these check-ins, and sometimes those are helpful conversations, um and I don't know,
It's more beneficial when it's not in the heat of the
Yeah.
moment and things like
Yeah.
that.
So in a sense, I guess you could say we prioritize date night, and then we practice communication on date night, and then making time for intimacy, physical intimacy, is important. um
I was wondering why Emily was giggling this whole time.
I'm just being myself.
she's being dirty.
I'm married, it ain't dirty.
Hebrew says the marriage bed is sacred, right? Yeah. And those are things I would say, like, when I do premarital coaching with couples, if you were to have like gauges on your marriage dashboard, like your car, like the things you need to monitor and keep healthy, I would say, are like communication, quality time, and sex. Like, and like not trying to be weird about that, but even within Christians, sometimes pastors can get weird about it, even like overcompensating, trying not to be too much of a prude. So I was, in a balanced way, I was just trying to say, if you're retreating from one another physically and retreating from physical intimacy, that's often an indication that there's been some retreats in other, like, we're embodied souls. So we act out in our bodies things that are often happening on an emotional and spiritual level. So that's an important gauge. Now it gets tricky when you have kids, and I never realized before married or having kids how much you almost have to schedule some things. But yeah, anyways, those are some ways, those are things we intentionally monitor and cultivate in our marriage. How about you guys?
It has been a very hard season. for us to take care of our marriage and each other with a newborn. Older than a
And
newborn now.
And a move to another state.
Yes.
And another new job. And
It's a lot of stressors.
yeah.
Yeah, we had like all summer off. Granted, it was with a new baby, so it was not relaxing, that's for sure. But it was like I was on maternity leave, Matt was still waiting for school to start, April didn't start school yet, so we were all home trying to just figure out what our life was like. And then literally within the matter of a week, we just went back to real life. April went to preschool, I went to work, Matt went to school. We're trying to juggle Zeke and taking care of him during the day. So when it's not this insane season of our lives, or what do we do in this insane season of our lives to keep our marriage healthy? What are just like the small things that we can do in the midst of the craziness?
Well, we have this kind of arrangement with my sister and my brother-in-law where they live not close, but they live close enough to where we can do this once a month. Is like we swap kids.
Yeah.
That's not really exactly right. They babysit our kids, we go out, and then we babysit their kids and they go out. We only did it once and it was good. Alesa, I just went and got pizza and just sat in the car in silence for like, I'm not even kidding, it was like 20 minutes. We just sat and just
Heavenly. It's okay.
This is the first time we've gotten to do this in a really long time. We'll just sit here.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've not been super good with cultivating these things in this crazy season of life, but on our anniversary we like to do what's that?
I just want to say that's okay and normal, and like we've had those the moving, those things are taxing on your time and relationship, and it's just like being aware of it and monitoring it and it not becoming
the forever norm.
the norm, like not essentially adapting to that new as being the normative thing, but like newborn stuff, like it's hard. Like, so I just want to tell you guys, like, it is hard if it feels hard, and it's normal for it to feel hard. But Matt, you were going to say something about anniversary. Sorry.
On our anniversary, we didn't do it this year because we were in the middle of moving. Basically, we like to do it sounds cheesy, but we like to do like a little marriage summit. Like we go to dinner and just talk about what we want to be or do or work on in the next season of marriage. Those are always helpful conversations.
That actually brings up a good point that I think that we do intentionally and unintentionally. I think it brings us closer together when we are working on a goal together. So don't make Matt and I do a home project together. That's not the kind of goal I'm talking about. That could get a little rocky. But I'm like, if we're like, okay, we want to actually, just before we got pregnant with Zeke, we didn't follow through much because our life kind of had a curveball. But we were like, okay, what are like 3 couples or 3 people that are really important to us that we want to intentionally love this year? Because it was like coming out of like a season of our marriage where we were like really like introspective with one another, and we kind of didn't do a really good job of like pouring into our friends. So we went into that year and we were like, okay, how are we going to love these people specifically? And I think little goals like that bring us together because we're striving towards something together, and it's really fun to accomplish things and see progress. And also it goes back to the values thing. Like when you have those same values, it brings you closer together because you are in it together. So
yeah,
I like that.
Yeah. You said something made me laugh. The furniture or the home project. I've heard someone say for premarital coaching, just have a couple buy a piece of IKEA furniture and have to put it together. And
literally.
Didn't you?
And then debrief after.
That's great.
Didn't you say one of your other ideas was have them buy a 2-seater kayak and just have them go out on the lake for 2 hours and then debrief after?
We did that on our honeymoon.
Like our first argument of marriage.
Yes, seriously.
We have,
I want a single kayak. Get out of my boat.
We bought single-seater kayaks for that very reason. Do that. Like
That's funny.
you can't even hang a shelf together without like one of us storming out of the house and having to like go walk around the block.
Yes. Like, okay, one biggest argument we've ever had hanging shelves.
Yep.
I mean,
Not-
it was like one of us left the house.
Not the shelves that we just showed you.
See, progress.
Yeah.
Growth.
We
Different
did a whole
shelves.
project.
Yeah.
And then two, here's the thing is that if we were to buy a tandem kayak, this is the argument we would get. We would go into that and I would be fully convinced that I am the superior kayaker and that I need to be in the back of the front, wherever the most important seat is.
Steers.
And then we get out there and I am obviously not the superior kayaker, but I think I am. And then Matt just has to like make up for both of us while I complain.
We just went on a field trip with our daughter April, and we went to a apple orchard.
Oh my gosh.
The orchard is a maze, so, and they brag that they're the only apple orchard maze in the state of Illinois, which is, I don't know if that's something that you brag about, but anyway, Alesa was really confident that they gave us a little map. This was with like 100 preschoolers and their families. That she could like be our navigator, and we got lost in the apple orchard maze. We were like the last ones out because Alesa was really confident that she knew what to do, and she went the exact opposite direction that we should have gone.
And and Emily has gone on girls trips with me, so she knows this about me.
You just confidently do the wrong thing and refuse
Confident, own it.
the fact that you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, because no one can make a decision, so I'm gonna make the decision, even if I'm wrong. Anyway.
Yeah, we need decision.
So
go for it.
In that vein, if you were to identify 1 to 3 threats to your marriage, what would they be?
Interesting.
I think you mentioned earlier that like one of like you guys are, kind of a give and take, like one of you is down, one of you is feeling good. I feel like we don't do that often. It's like when one of us is down, everyone's down, I struggle with my mental health, and I often have days where I'm just not feeling good. And I'm not able to like compensate for when Elisa's not feeling good. It's like I'm just worried, about me not feeling good. It's like I don't have the capacity to really do anything other than that. That's been something that we've wrestled with for, since we've been dating. It's just kind of like I need you right now, but you're not available mentally, emotionally, whatever it may be.
Yeah. And I think that we do tend to bring each other down too. Even if the other one isn't already there. I feel like we're really, I guess, is the term symbiotic correct? I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's like we feed off of each other a lot. So if I wake up in the morning and I'm like, oh, today's going to be a good day, I'm feeling great. And then I go downstairs and I'm like, Matt, isn't it such a great day? And he's like, no, I'm feeling, this is, just giving a really simple example.
Yeah, that's not a conversation that we've had.
No, it's a simple example, but like, I will be in a great mood and then I'll find out that Matt's not, and it'll just bring me down, and then vice versa. And I think that we could probably do a better job of being like, okay, you only have 10%, I'm going to be your 90, making up for where the other lacks, being more intentional about that.
Yeah, that's good.
It's hard though.
Also, when our styles of conflict are not the same, I tend to retreat and get overwhelmed and just like need a second to not be in conflict. And then Alesa like will chase me down and make me talk to her.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that what I'm doing is good. I'm not saying what she's doing is bad. It's just like we need different things when we're in conflict, and we don't always. I'll venture to say that we hardly ever communicate those in the moment, and it usually it always ends up with we need to have a talk later when we've all cooled down on everything like that. And it doesn't always need to be like that. Like I shouldn't retreat. I don't handle conflict in the best way, but yeah, I think that's something that we need to work on.
I get very intense. Very, very intense very quickly. What about you guys? 1 to 3 threats.
So similar to that, I think our own our own weaknesses in our communication styles can become our kind of worst enemy. And so actively working to allow them to complement and balance out one another. And what I would like us to work on, I think we're trying to work on, is I've been calling it, we have this like phase, and let's say we have a conflict conversation. We have this phase of petty, middle school, jabby,
It's mostly
unhealthy.
it's mostly me. Let's just be honest.
I mean, you jab, but I get angry. So here's the thing. Emily's the one who retreats in our relationship. I'm the more intense one.
So I'll
But
throw a couple sucker punches to like
Yep.
back off a little bit, buddy.
And then you run away.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
And then Anthony has steam coming out of his literal ears.
yeah. Well, and here's the thing though. So
Hey, you are my
Lisa, you're
spirit
you're probably good at this too. So I can be intense, and like for my job, I literally work with words. So like
so it's an unfair advantage.
so
Mm.
she's
And
retreating,
I'm not ready for it.
and I'm building a case, and I can be very logical.
Have the lawyer come
Um,
into the scene. Here
so
we go.
I'm like building a case and wordsmithing it, and she's retreating.
Wow, I can see that in both of you. That could get scary.
It's
Yeah.
intense, right?
So we have to get through the immature phase. The thing is, we've finally gotten to where we know this about ourselves, and like I'm trying to regulate it, trying to give her space. She's working on not
Well,
retreating as much.
and trying to de-escalate
Yeah.
my own
Defensiveness. Yeah.
It's hard. I mean,
But
yeah. No,
we
it's hard.
typically still have, I'm calling it the immature phase. It's like right now we're still have to get through that to get to the like, okay, let's have a healthy conversation here and reconcile. The thing is we do get to that point, but the threat, I guess, would be us sort of just giving into our natural tendencies and not actively working on them, and then not reconciling. That would be that'd be a threat. And then another threat would be getting like caught in like you guys are in a season right now of a newborn and all that busyness and all that stuff, and we've been in those seasons too. A threat would be like getting stuck in that season for a really prolonged amount of time where you like drift, and we've not, I don't think we've been there, but we feel it pretty like last week I had a lot of extra meetings and stuff. I was really busy and a little bit absent, and like it's like the kids and Emily, like they felt it. And so this week I'm trying to compensate and address that and be more present, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
a threat would be getting stuck in unhealthy cycles, maybe, I would say, or patterns, rhythms. What would you say?
Yeah. I was going, well, let's see, on a more personal, like not just an us note, but like on a more personal note, for me, one of the threats would be kind of like in those conflicts when we're stuck in that rut and that cycle, is just that getting on that self-preservation like track instead of like the get back on the track of actually being united again. Does that make sense? Obviously the emphasis being on the self-preservation instead of like the us and the unity and the intimacy being reinstated. But yeah, I can get stuck on the self-defense, like being defensive and being prideful and being selfish about the outcome, or but I was right about this, that sort of thing, if that tricks.
Yeah.
I think that's when those like marriage, those like intentional communication moments come in, because it's not like holding a record of wrongs, but it's being able to go back.
Thanks
and
for
being
listening
like,
to part
okay,
1 of this 2-part
I'm
episode.
stuck in this
If you
rut of
enjoyed
like
it, make sure
defensiveness
to
because it's like
like
every
and
time we
share
get
it
in these
on social
conversations,
media
I feel like I need
or with your
to,
friends.
you
Give
know,
us a 5-star rating on
protect
Apple
myself, and
Podcasts.
being
Whatever
able
you want to
to
do to express
bring
your
that up and
support,
break
and
down
make
those
sure
walls. And an
to be
intentional
looking out
time
for
helps
part
you
2
like
of
break
this
that
episode, which
cycle.
will be out later this month.